tabs online. There's a lot of things like that help. But actually, it was just looking at it. Government, I don't know if you guys have this problem, but government doesn't want to pay you more unless you manage people. That is so old style. Not if you have a skill set, or if you can do more than one job. It's if you manage people. Well, of course, what happened is it's like taking your best salesman and making him the manager. That doesn't usually work. So there was lots of middle management. And usually people go after the front line, which just kills me. The front line is just trying to do their best out there. The middle is where you got to go in government. They really overdo the middle, is all I got to say. So we went in and eliminated a lot of folks in the management and made it straight line. So there's only like 3 people between me and the baseline clerk at the counter. So that's how you can keep a better track and all that. So anyways, by doing that, we went down to 1,500 folks. We also looked at all of our branches, went from 171 down to 138, took these 2- and 3-person offices and said, why do we have this? Went down the road, there's another 2- or 3-person office. And in government, you have to pay the manager in a 2- or 3-person office in Detroit the same as you pay them in Bessemer. Anybody been to Bessemer? Yeah, okay, good. That's up in the UP, almost to Wisconsin. So, it didn't make any sense. So we went to the larger style offices, eliminated them, and went down that road. And just talking to Representative McMillan, I don't know if he's in here, and he said to me, well, what can we do at state government? And I said, the same thing we did at the SOS, thank you very much, and the same thing I think the mayor has done too. In this day of technology and doing business, you can really do some things differently. So kind of in a nutshell, that's what we did. Now is the practical part. Now that I've encouraged you all to get out there and do this, you do have to file a report. Please do this, follow the rules here. Very simple to do. You can go to the website for your local clerk or for the state of Michigan, get your campaign finance report filed, please. File your statement of organization, file your affidavit to run for office, and do all of that. It's not that hard. It really is pretty simple to do, but so many people get caught up in that and don't do that right. Don't ruin your campaign just on that reason. Please just do it. And even if you want to call me, even though I'm not in the biz anymore, I'll be happy to help you, because I'm on Twitter and Facebook. Twitter and Facebook? All right. Yes, I love that. I tell the kids it's quite a different world now. When I started in this business working for Jerry Ford a long time ago, I remember having to print the newsletter, stuff the newsletter, mail the newsletter. Facebook. Friend me on Facebook. We'll be a friend. The newsletter's on Facebook now. Very inexpensive and very up to date, and also on Twitter too. So, but I'm still trying to encourage folks. I'm still out there talking to kids. I still have them calling me, and I try to sit down with anybody that wants to run for office. I'll be able to help you out. I give you past experiences that I've had. But it's really an opportunity that you should do. And it really gives you an insight to what's going on, and really gives you that opportunity to get out there and make your voices heard. So that's my sales pitch for today. I'll pass it on to the mayor.
Thanks, Terry. And obviously you did a fantastic job as Secretary of State. And, every time I renew my tabs, I think of you and I say thank you. So, well, except for the fee, but that's not you. I wanted to cover a couple of things. Brian, push the first slide. I tell people about local government that 3/4 of your interactions with government that don't involve your paycheck are at the local level. It is the portion of government that is the most accountable and the most direct to you. Quick overview about local government in the state. Michigan is one of the most governed states at the local level. 2,700 entities, give or take, between counties, schools, local units of government, special districts, and authorities. Just as a quick benchmark, this year's executive budget proposal for the entire state government contains almost $46 billion in spending. The most recent figures I could get that capture local government spending, excluding schools, back in 2007 was the same amount. So if you're concerned about state spending, you're concerned about government spending, you need to be concerned about local spending. And it's an area where you have perhaps the most ability to influence. So in terms of trends from what I'm seeing at the local level, there's a lot of talk about collaboration, shared services. I'm seeing some action. It's not at the pace that it needs to be. There's virtually no consolidation happening. It's just people aren't there yet. They should be, but it's not happening. And I think that municipalities fall, generally speaking, and I'm going to be very broad here, and I apologize in advance for doing so, but basically municipalities in dealing with reductions in revenue are doing one of three things. They're not doing anything, so they're putting their head in the sand. Some are paying some lip service to reducing expenditures and addressing the cost side of government, and they're asking for increases in taxes and fees. And that's been a decidedly mixed bag. We've seen a lot of millages fail in recent past, even some school elections where they've failed. There are a handful, for example, Bloomfield Township actually got a general fund millage rate increase passed this last fall. And sorry about that, thank you. That's probably one of the notable exceptions that I've seen on that. One thing I'd like to stress to everyone in the room right now is that when you see a government that is functioning either in the category of one or two that I've described, that when cuts come along in revenue sharing, for example, they bring out the public safety pony, I like to call it, and they say, if we don't get this funding, if we don't get this millage rate passed, if we don't get what we got last year in statutory revenue sharing, we're going to have to lay off fire and police. And that is patently a disingenuous argument. Any municipality that has linked the funding of essential public services at the very core of the government to a variable revenue stream like statutory revenue sharing have done you a disservice. And what they're asking you to do when they're asking you to support that variable revenue stream is to continue to make that same mistake. So push back on that. Don't believe that. A little bit of good news that I'm seeing is the legislature, with a number of local government leaders who have sort of climbed the ladder into state government, who have experience in dealing with reforming local government, have seen the need to change a number of acts that really go to the heart of how local governments operate. I've listed a few. You've probably heard the most about the Emergency Financial Manager Act. That one is obviously huge. There are pieces of that will be tested in the courts. Stay tuned for that battle. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is just to kind of show you an example of what we've done in one city with a conservative council for the most part, and what we've been able to do in face of a radically changing economy. Go to the next slide, Brian. I'm the mayor of the city of Rochester. I've been on the council for 6 years. We have a council manager form. I've been appointed mayor by my colleagues for the last 3 years. We are a small city, about 12,000, almost 13,000 residents. Little plug, we saw a 20% population increase in the last census. So we were a decided bright spot in southeast Michigan in that regard. Pretty small city, only 4 square miles, but we have, I think a lot of people know our downtown. Overall, the budget's about $21 million, give or take. What's happened recently, like many communities in southeast Michigan, we were very dependent on the big three. A lot of mid and upper level executives live in our community. In fact, if I were a better golfer, I could, in about 6 shots, hit the Chrysler World headquarters from our boundaries. So when Chrysler went into bankruptcy, I was literally losing sleep. It could have been catastrophic for our community if Chrysler went into liquidation or moved the world headquarters. If that had changed in a material way, the city of Rochester would have been in a lot worse shape. The upshot is our general fund revenue has fallen roughly 30% since its peak in 2007. So what do you do? And that's really sort of getting into the next slide. We cut general fund spending by 1/3. We cut headcount by 12%. We didn't fire anybody. We did it through attrition. We did it through putting jobs together when we had retirements, and we didn't fill vacancies. We got rid of our pension program. That was a long, winding road. I won't bother you with that, but there's some problems with the Municipal Employee Retirement System Act that need to change, and yeah, really. And I'm going to be writing a letter to the governor and the legislature. Just some minor tweaks to that act. We could really help municipalities get away from those long-term obligations and move to DC plans a lot more quickly. But in the middle of all this, we also cut taxes 12%. We found efficiencies. We found basically money that was, in contracts that hadn't been bid, and sometimes in 30 years. This stuff exists in local government. When I took office, I was 30 years old. I'm 36 now. And I had the idea that, in the 90s, most of this, no bidding of contracts and not having council meetings on TV had all been solved. And then I took office, and I saw that it had, and I was really shocked. And for a period of time, I was actually angry about it. The good news is you can channel that and actually have it make a difference. But cutting 1/3 out of our budget, it wasn't rocket science. It was not that hard. When I hear local officials say we're at the bone, I have a hard time believing that, because we've lived it. We've done it. It's taken 3 years to get here, turning over every stone, bidding contracts. We rebid our garbage contract, something very mundane, last year. Saved $100,000 on one contract. And it's those sorts of things that elected leaders have to demand get done. Now, in our form of government, we have a city administrator who runs the day-to-day affairs. And 2 years ago, he came to us and said, well, I think we're at the bone. We need to dip into our fund balance, our rainy day fund. And the council had the strength to say, no, we want to see, from a budgetary standpoint, blood on the floor before we're going to let you spend into those savings accounts. And miraculously, we found more and more and more inefficiencies. But it's hard work, and you have to be diligent, and you have to, you can't ever let your guard down on it. We froze wages, and in fact, in one case, we were able to increase the services we provide. That's something of a dirty word. But this one was advanced life support for our ambulance service. I couldn't believe that a city of our caliber, in Southeast Michigan, didn't have that. So we were able to do that in spite of this. Long story short, next slide, Brian. The city of Rochester still exists. The downtown didn't crumble. The birds are still flying in the sky. In fact, it's a lot better than that. We did a survey last year, statistically, valid survey. 98% of people who live in Rochester are happy with the services they get, and they would recommend living in our community to somebody else. So that's the most important feedback we can possibly get. And I know, having been reelected in 2009, that that told me everything I needed to know. But some people want to do the survey. Anyways, some other benchmarks we've received. CNN Money. I realize we can probably take that with a grain of salt. Top 100 places to live.
Great restaurants.
Yeah, great restaurants.
Great Christmas lights.
One thing that I'm really proud of is our bond rating. Though we're virtually debt-free, we have only 2 bonds outstanding right now. But we have the highest possible bond rating for a small city. We can't get to AAA because we don't have more than 15,000 people. But if we do ever have to go to the bond market, we're in good shape. And then our census growth, sort of, the market spoke. People decided they wanted to be there. So the upshot is, and I would implore to all of you